Well, this is Basis 1. We're in May 2025 and we're now doing Basis 1, another update. This time with Sophia, or Sophia. Sophia has come forward and her accounts about James and about bases in Reading, about underground tunnels between the hospitals in Reading, about how the children are collected at schools and go straight into bases, many of them not to survive, which is how James and Max and others have been brought into these programs. Originally in 1994, Lisa McKenna Williams, the late Lisa McKenna Williams, came to me and told me a story about a security guard in a base in Berkshire called AL499, called Peasmore, where they were making programmed generated life forms involving population management controls programs called Project Mannequin, Project Puppet Master. Well, Lisa isn't with us anymore. James has been in jail for a heck of a long time and is not in a very good state. People have died. Sophia was left for dead. And this is the first time since Sophia came forward, and subsequently her home was broken into. She had been lying on one of her feet, digging into her back for over 2.5 days. They were going to cut her legs off. She wasn't meant to survive. Well, she has. Today, she said, why don't you come round? There's a personal message in this for James. Because James and others were in the same street when we're associated with the same school, which is associated with certain broadcasters and certain entertainers and certain broadcasters. I've had to take the safety catches off whatever weapon systems I have at my disposal. Those safety catches are off. And whatever has been given to me to deal with this situation is now in the field and deployed. Whatever that may be. This is Sophia, her first time coming forward to speak after the horrific state that she was able to recover from. And make no mistake about this, if it hadn't been for a fast blast or two about her, she would be dead by now. Thankfully, help arrived and she was given the necessary treatment, and she's now walking and able to function independently. She's been warned, do not ever drive a car again, because they are out to kill her, as they have been doing multiple attempts on myself, and as they have succeeded with others who have been interviewed and given their statements to the Basis Project. So, this is Sophia. By mobile phone. I didn't want to have an elaborate camera system, just speak it over a cup of coffee. And this is her first time in recovery after horrendous injuries. Wonderful Sophia.
Okay, and James mentioned the
okay, we're now recording this.
Okay.
I'm with Sophia. Yeah. Sophie or Sophia?
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've talked in quite a few years, and you've had a really hard time, and you're walking about here, and it's absolutely fantastic. You've sustained a severe injury, and you're walking on both feet, both walking at the same time in the same direction, and you've made me a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And this is really a personal message to James.
So I take my glasses off a minute.
If you can take your glass off, whatever. Okay. But also, do you want this to go more public?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the worst they can do to me. I'll go public.
Okay. Good girl. Girl of spirit. Okay, we're recording this on 8th of May, 15th of May, what day? That's the 10th.
Is it 10th?
10th of May in Swindon on my mobile. And it's really good to see you.
Thank you.
So I've decided to crash into record here because you were talking about James,
Yeah.
school, and whether there are a family connection
Yeah.
there. So could you just go back to what you just said?
Sorry. Okay. I had a very good medium friend of mine. He was no longer on this planet. He's no longer alive. He said to me, he gave me a spiritual message basically, and he said, I have got a child, not my daughters, I've got 2 daughters, but I have actually got another child somewhere that was taken from me. I may not have carried that child either, by the way. So I don't know if James is perhaps a son of mine or a cousin. I don't know. But he went to the same secondary school as me, and we lived around the corner from each other in Tilehurst near the school, Deanfield School, secondary school. When I went to Deanfield School, I went when I was the last 2 years of the GCSEs years. So I attended Deanfield for my GCSEs. Before that, I was in the Middle East. We were there for a year, my family and I. And then before that, I was living. There's a connection to Caversham and a connection to Whitchurch on Thames. So, anyway, so James seemed to go to Deanfield either at the same time as me, but he was below me in years, and he lived just around the corner from my house. My house was where we lived was a new build, so we were the first people to live in that. And he, I can't remember where he lived in Tilehurst, but from what I heard from his interviews, from what he was saying, it was just around the corner from where we were living in Tilehurst, in the new build.
Okay, there's an immediate little problem here. If he's practically your age, how could you?
No, he's not. James isn't my age. James is younger than me. I'm
Right.
52.
Okay.
And I think, because I can't work it out, but and also I don't know my age, right? Because I was lied to. So I am actually I was trafficked as a child. So basically my birth certificate says I was born in 1973. I wasn't. I was born, 3 years before. No, I was born in the 60s. Okay, but my birth certificate was a forgery, and the lawyer I had said my birth certificate was null and void, it was a forgery, and in actual fact I was trafficked in South Africa. So I am actually not the age I am officially. So I'm actually, could be 3 years older than I actually am right now. Because officially I'm 52. Now I could be officially 55, 56 now. I'll stick with the official age, that's fine by me. I'm happy to lose those years. I'm happy to stay 52, 3 years younger than I am. I'm happy to be like 3 year younger than my actual official age type of thing. So I'm actually like...
well, you're looking very well. I mean, you're tired and you've had a rough time, but you're looking very well.
Thank you. So, if you can mathematically work it out, but James, that's why I say James and I were in the same school, but I was actually, because my birth certificate's wrong, he would have been, so if I'm 52 now, and I don't know how old he is now, sorry, but I'm actually not 52, I'm 52, 53, 54, I'm 55, 56, then my birth certificate I'm 52. Do you understand? Okay, now...
Listen, sometimes I can't even work my own age out, so don't worry.
Sefton, should I get the picture? Right, remember this diagram, this picture, this is Sefton. I spoke about him before. This is Gareth's brother. Sorry. This is Gareth,
Who's Gareth?
Gareth's my ex-husband. He was also trafficked, and so is Sefton. That was drawn by a medium in a spiritual church. Church, and I had that on one of my videos. Sefton, they killed him. Okay, and he came to me. He came to me in the spiritual church and to the mediums and things. Sefton did. And Sefton told me he'd been murdered. He also said to me about James. And when I went to the spiritual church...
What did he say about James?
What, Sefton? Sefton said he's related to me, James. And that was in a medium on the platform, doing platform work. And the medium on the platform said, you are related to James. And I'm sitting there going, James who? At the time I was like, James who? And then the medium on the platform, talking to the whole congregation, said to me in front of everyone, come and talk to me when the service is over. I need to give you a message from Sefton, Gareth's brother, about James and about you. And I was like, okay. So I waited for him, the medium. The medium is called Bill Harrison. And Bill Harrison was an extremely good medium. And he said because he told me he needed to talk to me, because Sefton told him he needed to talk to me. And that's when Bill said about everything. Bill Harrison said about everything. And I'm like, okay. And he said I needed to find James. He said at the time, I don't know if James has changed his name. I don't know what his original name was, but I needed to find James. And I was like, okay. And then this video flash popped up on my feed, and it was James Casbolt.
When?
This is Sorry. Are you asking me? Ah, right, okay. So this is back before. Okay, this is back before. This is back before my kids were born. Before I got married to my husband, my ex-husband. Olivia's 20.
This is
she's gonna kill me.
2025.
Olivia's 25. Right, anyway, Olivia was born in 99. No, she wasn't. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. And sorry, my youngest daughter was a millennial baby, and Olivia was 1999. And Olivia was born in our Royal Berkshire Hospital, and the youngest was born at home. It was a home birth. So, where are we going from? So yes, this is, sorry, how many years ago is this? I don't, look, Olivia's 20, do you know? She's about 25 now. I don't know, she's going to kill me. And yeah, so she was, so this is like quite a few years ago, before I was married to her dad.
I think the first videos of James
But, sorry.
came up when he talked about Peasmore, about Barry.
Peasmore, yes, and Barry. And that lady, I can't remember her name, and it was on, and it came up on my feed, YouTube feed and everything. And that's
Bear in
why-
mind, the
Well, that's how I started
Okay.
watching you in your channel, Miles, as well, because of her interview. And I'm so sorry I don't remember her name.
Lisa?
Lisa.
She's passed
She
on.
passed away, yes. And I watched that video with Barry, and
Barry.
Lisa, and you. It was you filmed it or something. And then the stuff came out about James and everything. And he mentioned my school, Deanfield. And I'm like, okay. And then, so I was watching everything he was saying at that beginning. So do you remember when James still first came out to speak? Because it was around that time, I think I saw his videos and stuff. And then my kids, you know, when they got on the internet and everything, they then found, well, the video found them. And they were like, Mum, come and watch this, Mum, come and watch this. They found it. So I went to them and watched it and went, oh. So that was when Olivia was 8. I think she was 6 or 7 or something, or 8. And obviously Emma was whatever age, but they found found the videos on the internet, and then I started watching everything that was there.
Are we looking now around about 2010 or 11 or something?
What, when
That's 10 years. That's
when
15
my
years.
daughters found the videos?
Yeah, it was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
In round
So,
figures.
Something like that, yeah. The kids were now computer savvy, so they found it and everything. And they just said to me, Mum, come and watch this. And so I did. And then I started reading James's book online. And then I heard about all the stories about him being arrested and all this kind of thing. And they knew about, and then Peasmore and all that kind of thing. Because my kids had seen things that they couldn't explain that happened to them. So they were looking for answers too. And that's when the kids and I watched Taken by Steven Spielberg. And because the farm, with Roswell, the farm where the UFO crashed was the same family name as my family. And I mentioned this before.
And that's when you're talking Brazil?
Brazil.
What?
And I was also investigating the name Brazil. Now you can say Brazil, however you want to pronounce it. Now I know the clan, the Brazil clan, as it were, was a very interesting history. Excuse me. It's a very interesting history about the clan, but there is connections to Roswell, and that's when I watched Taken because it was like I was really looking into this the Roswell crash. But I've been interested in the Roswell crash since I was in hospital having my appendix out when I was 9. Because someone came to visit me in the hospital when I had my appendix out. No, I wasn't 9, so sorry, 12. They came to visit me in the hospital when I had my appendix out, and they handed me a book. And they said, oh, why don't you read this book? And I don't know who this person was. I just recovered from anaesthetic.
I'm going to make an editorial note here. The way you say "oh" is very like Tim Refat's "oh." That's an editorial note. Continue.
Refat. Right, I've got, look, since the bang on my head. Oh yeah, Tim Refat, sorry, got it. So, so it's all like Parkinson's. So anyway, so while I was in hospital having my appendix out at the RBH, Royal Berkshire Hospital, this person came to me and said, oh, you'll be very interested in this book. And I looked at it and I was reading it and everything, because of course I had to go do lessons in hospital, like you do, you know, when they send in teachers to the hospital at that time. They come in and help you do your work because you're not at school. So they handed me the book, and I read it, and it was about the farm, and I read about the farm, the crash at Roswell. Sorry.
What do you mean by the farm?
The farm where the crash happened, you know, the
Okay.
Brazil farm in Roswell. And when I was reading the book, I spoke to the family about it, and I said, oh, did you know they were called Brazil? And they were like, oh, don't bother reading that. Who gave you that book? Who gave you that book? I didn't tell them who gave me the book, but they weren't very happy that I got the book and the connection with the Roswell and the Brazils and all this kind of thing. So anyway, where were we? Sorry.
I think it's about when you first saw James
So
and
when
your
I first
family
saw James, okay.
on video.
Yeah, when I first saw James on video, and I heard his story, and he mentioned Tilehurst and all of that, and then he mentioned his book he'd written online.
Agent Buried Alive.
Buried Alive, yes, that's it, Agent Buried Alive. So I downloaded that. I've still got it on my laptop.
How many chapters?
It's on my laptop, I think. I think I've got it all. I think I've got all of it.
What do you call all of it?
Well, I downloaded what I could.
Yeah.
So I just kind of downloaded it as much as I
Well,
could.
Bob Osborne is going to publish all that for him.
And I wasn't stealing his book. I wasn't trying to pirate his book. I was just reading it because I was looking for the section in the book where he mentions Tilehurst and Deanfield. Because he kept going on about Deanfield, and he kept going on about how the kids would go off in the minibuses to for sport or something, but they weren't going for sport. They were going to the tunnels and everything. And I remember the minibuses. I remember them going off and everything. And then at Deanfield, I do remember that, yes.
So yeah, was at school. You went off to where?
Well, you go in the minibuses and everything, but we were taken off. We were meant to be going to like the pool, swimming pool, like the Reading Central pool for swimming. Our school did not have a pool, so we'd have to go to another pool to swimming and everything. But we never went swimming. No. We would go off to the barracks, Territorial Army Barracks in Reading. And I can't remember what they're called. Gosh. I know them. But we wouldn't go to the actual barracks. We'd go off to Air Force bases, the bases like military bases, that kind of thing. And of course there's tunnels under the RBH, Royal Berkshire Hospital. There's also connections to Battle Hospital in Reading. The Battle Hospital is closed down now, but at the time there's a tunnel going from the RBH, Royal Berkshire Hospital, and the Battle Hospital. Okay.
What sort of tunnel can you?
Well, there's like a connection between the two hospitals. The Battle Hospital, the Royal Berkshire, the Battle Hospital was more for long-term care. So I went to the Battle Hospital when I was on long-term care because I had been diagnosed with an illness. So I ended up going to the Battle Hospital to be tube fed, the tube feeding, because I lost my swallow. So I had to go to the Battle for that long-term care. The RBH is where A&E was. The Battle was more, what's it called, you know, when more long-term care thing? Convalescence? No? It's not A&E. We don't do that, but the operating theatres are in RBH, Royal Berkshire Hospital, and the Battle wasn't to do with A&E or operations or anything. So it's all mainly people who've been broken, who'd fallen or anything like that. So it's convalescence, isn't it, kind of thing.
Palliative care.
Palliative care, thank you. But I don't think, but it was people were getting better and going home. Yeah. So sorry. So yeah. So basically, as I say, there is a tunnel going. There was a tunnel going from the RBH, Royal Berkshire Hospital, and the Battle Hospital.
Can you describe the tunnels in terms of the decor,
yes,
colours?
My father, my natural father, he owned the concrete company. Yeah, the family owned a concrete company. They would do the tunnels digging, and they use the concrete for the tunnels, that kind of thing.
This is a special kind of concrete, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So that concrete, business, they sold it, but it was very well known in the south of England. But not only that, they also had the pork factory. As I said in my last talk, it's now Tesco's, and it's actually the graveyard of where the last woman who got executed, hung. What was her name? Sorry. Her grave is there in that churchyard, which is next to.
Is that because it's a state type graveyard for people?
No, it's a church graveyard.
Oh.
But that, like, what's her name?
Pierce or something?
No.
Ellis or something?
Ellis, Rita Ellis, right? They exhumed her body and they buried her in that graveyard in Amersham. And it was actually, there's a little river. Now, where her grave is now, Rita Ellis, okay, in that graveyard is very next to where the old factory was for the pork. Just saying, Rita Ellis is, that's where her grave is now.
And what's the significance of a pork factory?
Well, the significance of it is because of what they did to Ruth Ellis. I mean, I know she admitted to killing the man and everything, but the family would go on about Ruth Ellis because I don't believe Ruth Ellis was actually, I think she was kind of programmed or mind hypnotised, if you like, or whatever, to do that, to shoot that gun, to fire that gun, sorry. I know her story, I do know that, but my family used to go on about the fact that, you know, how they said they were laughing and they were like, oh, see how easy it is to get someone to do something you want them to do. Ruth Ellis, for example. And at the time, I didn't know about Ruth Ellis. I didn't know what she'd done. The women of the family were like, yeah, well, she was a stupid cow, because look what she did. And they were like, well, she was programmed in a way to do that. Now, I don't know why they wanted to get rid of the guy that was connected to Ruth Ellis, but they were kind of basically reveling in the fact that she actually got hung, and they got away with whatever they did. That family, the group.
You want to spell it out in plain English?
What? Sorry.
Do you want to spell it out in plain English?
What they did?
Yeah.
Well, they would use patsy people. They would use people to get children, victims, whatever, to use for their purposes.
You think there's somebody here?
What, in the flat? It could be a ghost.
Well, checking us out.
It could be Sefton. No one's outside. No, honestly, they can't make it up here.
Yeah.
Do you want me to have a look?
So,
let me have a look.
what connection?
I'll go and look.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the connection?
Well, I'm going to keep rolling. I'm thinking of somebody maybe dropping in to have a wee look at what we're talking about.
Well, I don't know how we're going to get in there. Cool.
No, I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about...
The spirit?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it could be spirit. Let's turn the ghost box on. Gotta be careful with letting. I couldn't sense anybody.
Okay, with just a precaution.
But there is no human back there, by the way. But it could be spirit.
Well, let's we've mentioned enough things.
So
It is. So
we're talking about this. So yeah.
this is primarily a message to James.
Oh, to James, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So after
Bear in mind
watching-
he's just come out of license.
So also the medium that connected with me, Bill Harrison, who now passed away, and I believe the group killed him, Bill, because Bill hung himself, like Sefton hung himself.
My sister hung herself.
Huh?
My sister hung herself.
And
And the barmaid, who was called Brazil,
yes,
at
she
the
hung
South
herself.
Gate, she also hung herself.
I'm going to put my glass on, a bit dizzy. Sorry. Yeah, she did.
And somebody else
Robert
just hung
Williams
herself in the
hung
newspapers,
himself.
involved with a certain island and a certain prince.
Exactly.
But let's...
Guthrie, Gus,
Yeah.
that lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what was I talking about? Yes, basically, James. Basically, James went off to. He was in Reading with me when we were in Reading. He mentioned things about he went to Indonesia or something. He went Far East when he was a child or something. When he was growing up or
Do
something.
try to talk a bit louder if you can.
So he went to the Far East, James did, and for the life of me I can't remember which country he mentioned. He could have gone to Indonesia, I don't know, but I remember it being like the Far East something. Interesting, that motorbike being there. So anyway, he mentioned that, and I'd been to those places. He also mentioned the fact that, James mentioned the fact that he, I don't know, he was in London. I mean, I was in London, he was in London, not unusual. So anyway, so James, the thing that alerted me more than anything was the fact that he went to Deanfield and I went to Deanfield. He lived in Tilehurst, around the corner from me, from where our house was.
I think there's a third person involved with this. Somebody else lived in the same area, but that's another part of the story.
I'm trying to think if there's someone else now. That Spears, Max Spears.
Yes, the late Max Spears.
Late Max Spears. There is a connection with Max Spears. But I don't know if Max Spears had anything to do with Tilehurst or Reading or whatever. But I did recognise Max Spears, yes. I do recognise him.
If I said Burnworthy, would that mean anything?
Burnworthy. A name, Burnworthy. No, but
Okay.
I've had a lot of Bursons. Burton, Burton. Burnworthy. No. A lot of Burtons. Burton, it says Burton, just trying to think, sorry. Yeah, because there was a girl, her surname was Burton, and so our house in Tilehurst was like over here. Across the road from where our house was, up the hill a bit, was Hangman's Hill. There's loads of houses. I think from what I remember from James's book, I looked on the map, so there was our house. Over there was Hangman's Hill, which is now called St. William's Drive, because St. William's Drive was called St. William's Drive because of the birth of Prince William at the time. So that
Precisely where are we with this
Tilehurst
physical location?
So what I'm saying is, our house was there, Prince William's Drive was there, okay, Hangman's Hill's where Prince William's Drive is, and James used to live just a bit over that way from where I was. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Where I was living.
What sort of distance are we talking about here?
Well, I used to walk to school. Kids used to walk to school like kids do. So it wasn't excessively far. If kids are walking, kids are walking to school, cycling to school. So we didn't have to get buses. So we're talking, I don't know. When you're a kid, it's a different perspective, isn't it? But if I could walk to school and back, then, I don't know, 5-minute drive?
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Walking, it's about 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm saying is James lived, there was this long road, can't remember the name of that road, and I think...
Where is this taking us?
This restaurant is in Tilehurst. I don't know if it's still around, but my family used to eat at that Indian restaurant. They used to go on about, the Alpha Eds and all this type of thing. Just saying, I don't know the connection about anything with this, but I will say the medium, Bill Harrison, who committed suicide, mentioned the connection to Princess Diana, Alpha Eds, and that Indian restaurant.
Nail this on the head. What type of connection? What are you getting at here precisely?
He said that they used the chefs they used the kitchens and the chefs from that restaurant for what they needed the chefs to do. You see, because they were butchers as well. They needed to eat stuff, so they would have to have chefs who could cook the stuff.
Do you want to say what
It's
stuff
like
is?
the Graduate film, The Graduate, or some freshman. with Matthew Broderick, and they were doing like really expensive. You know that film with
Nail it.
Freshman.
Explain
the Freshman. Well, it was a big con. But they were they were selling tables to this big banquet, and they were going to sell endangered species for the elite to eat there. But they weren't doing that at all. It's far from it. They were just getting the money from the elite and said, oh, we're going to eat the last salamander dragon, or we're going to eat the last peacock, but meanwhile they weren't actually doing that at all. It was a con, and they were raking in the money.
Right.
Okay, so that film with the Freshman with Matthew Broderick was showing that. But anyway, apart from that, that's what I'm supposed to say.
Are you inferring that they were eating something else?
Not in the film. The film was just a film.
Yeah.
The group did that kind of thing. Okay, the tickets would sell for like £20,000 or whatever. And on that table, you could have, on that meal, you'd have things that you wouldn't normally eat in a run-of-the-mill restaurant. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Okay, so they would eat something else, not endangered species. They would eat humans. Yeah, on the tables. It was that kind of meal. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Okay, so you have to have chefs to do that, that type of thing. You know, brains and stuff. They weren't monkey brains. You can eat monkey brains, yeah. They weren't monkeys.
You did make a mention earlier, when we did these first things that always beware of a butcher.
Yeah. Yes. I said that, did I? Yes, I did. They were butchering for the butcher family, yes. That's how they made their millions. That's how they got so rich. Yeah, and they owned a factory, and it was Brazil sausages and pork pies. So the two brothers, one was doing the pork side, right, and the other was doing concrete, the builders. So you had the builder part of the family, and then you have the meat part of the family.
Okay, now let's spin this round. Is there anything specifically you would like to tell James?
Right, James.
Bearing in mind James is now released, and this will be going via Bob Osborne as well.
Okay, James, my heart went out to you when you got, they came after you, and you were being basically attacked financially, mentally, and physically by the powers that be, the group. You were being targeted, because that's what they do. They stripped you of all your wealth, your money, they stripped you of everything. Partners, wives, children, doesn't matter. They took everything from you, James. And I want you to know that I know what that's like, obviously, because that happened to me. And I'm only just back on my feet again now.
Literally,
having lost everything again. Because the amount of times I've lost everything is too many to mention. Do you know how many times I've been homeless? So James, I understand everything that you went through, and a medium, many spiritualist mediums, psychics, have told me to find James, to go and find James, go and talk to James. He can answer a lot of my questions for me, and I can answer a lot of questions for James. And all these psychics, no matter where I go, kept telling me, go find James. Now, I had a cat when I was a child.
And that little bit you've just said, I will send to James.
So I I wasn't going to ignore the message from the spirits at the churches, because this is public in the service. Go and find James, go and find James. Sefton, my dead brother-in-law, kept telling me, go and find James, go and find James. So I managed to piece it all together. And then James, I've had like James the story and everything. But I then saw that James, you had been put in prison again. Because Miles, you went to the court or something. That video you made with, is it
Kathy Morgan?
Kerry Cassidy?
No, it was Kathy. There was a video we went down to Cornwall, St Ives.
Yes.
But that was with Kathy Morgan.
Kathy Morgan. No, but before he was in court, when James was in court, if you remember, and it was the day of the court case.
That was his friend.
You were standing outside, but you went to the court.
Yeah.
He was about to go into court and everything, right? Yeah. And so I saw all this, and my heart went out. My heart was breaking. So I was like, oh my God, this poor man. He keeps being sent down. Whether he was guilty or not, I don't know. But what I do know is, it's not his fault. It was not his fault, okay, because of what they've done to him and what they've done to me, and maybe what they've done to my daughters, and my ex-husband, and my ex-husband's brother, and my cousins, and my brothers and sisters that I have, that, because I know I have lots of brothers and sisters, but I don't know where they are. And my cousins, and all of that. So my heart goes out to James, because it's not his fault. And then he was put through this whole program, the military program. And then we've got a whole military thing going on here as well, the brainwashing and the military stuff, and being taken as a child and used by the government, the military, whoever it is. And he didn't have a choice in that. James did not have a choice. And I didn't have a choice in this either. Yeah? A lot of us didn't have a choice for the military to be, or the official, for them to be doing this to us, basically. That's what I'm just saying. And I wanted to get in contact with James, just to kind of confirm about Tilehurst or Reading and everything that happened to James, and I wanted to see if there is a relationship between James and I. Are we related? Is he and I related? Because I keep being told I have a son, and I keep being told I have a brother, and I don't know if James is my brother or my son, because I wouldn't have known. Because they would have harvested my eggs.
Yeah.
And they would have harvested whatever, my natural father's stuff, and made James. I don't know. Is he my brother? Is he my son? What was the relation? I just was wondering if I could get in contact with James and talk to him and see what he thinks.
Okay, I think that's probably enough for now. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't want to scare him off.
We'll sort of close up on that.
I don't want to scare him off, right?
I think been running probably the best part of it, maybe about good 40 minutes.
Have a flag.
Yeah. So thank you very much. It's really good to see you.
Mm-hmm. You still recording?
I'm still recording this, and good to see you. And until next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, what's happened is we had a call from a Jane Shattuck, which was on the phone, but I didn't answer it. Now, the point about Jane Shattuck is that she was at the very first public appearance of James Casbolt at the bases of the Barge, and she was right at the front, and she asked answered some questions. Cutting to the chase, Jane mentioned that the distant connection that's in her family wasn't with a James Casbolt, but with a James Caswell. And you've just said a whole lot of stuff. Do you want to say that again?
Well, there was a Caswells that were living in, let's just say, the county, the area. The man was a pilot for BA. His wife, they met flying. So he was a pilot, she was an air hostess. They got married, okay, but they were also part of the group. This couple were part of the group, the Casbolt were part of the group.
Sorry, make that clear. Caswell,
yes.
as opposed to Casbolt.
Yes.
Are they all? Are you saying they're connected?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, they're connected because Caswells, they used to talk about. They were part of the group and everything. So the group, I call it the group because it's all very interconnected to each other. They're very incestuous type of thing, and they also mentioned Casbolts. The Caswells mentioned Casbolts.
Well, that's that. We'll cut on that.
And they, okay. Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Not right now.
Okay,
no.
okay. I think we've been running long enough.
The Caswells mentioned Casbolts. Yes.
Okay, and this is basis 1. God knows what part it is. Going back to basis 1, Barry King talking about all this in 1994.
That lady passed away, Lisa?
Lisa Williams.
Lisa, yeah.
Very sad to see her leave.
Very sad, very, very sad that she passed away.
About 3 years ago. Okay.
I watched her video and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want another coffee or anything, by the way?
I think I'll just saunter on. Bye for now.